In the autumn of 1888, the streets of Whitechapel were stalked by a faceless killer, a man who seemed to vanish into the shadows after committing some of the most brutal murders in history. Who is Jack the Ripper? Why, more than 130 years later, does his name still send chills down our spine? And most importantly, will we ever uncover the truth? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll discover not just the horrifying details of the Ripper's crimes, but also the shocking theories that continue to divide experts even today. London's East End was a place of darkness. Poverty ruled the streets, crime was rampant, and many women had no choice but to turn to prostitution just to survive. The area of Whitechapel was a maze of alleys and gaslit streets, the perfect hunting ground for a predator no one saw coming. It began on August 31st. In Bucks Row, the lifeless body of Mary Ann Nichols was discovered in the early hours of the morning. Her throat had been cut deeply in 2 savage slashes, almost to the point of decapitation. But worse still, her abdomen had been ripped open in a series of brutal cuts, exposing the horror within. Police at the time were baffled. Nichols had been seen alive less than an hour before her body was found. Whoever the killer was, he worked swiftly and with a chilling precision. Just 1 week later, on September 8th, Annie Chapman met the same fate. Her body was found at 6 a.m. in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Her throat, like Nichols, had been slashed twice, but this time the killer went further. Annie's abdomen was ripped open completely. Flesh from her stomach had been laid carefully across her shoulder, her intestines draped over another. Her uterus, bladder, and part of her vagina had been removed, taken away by her killer. Witnesses reported seeing Annie with a man just half an hour before she died. A woman named Elizabeth Long described him as shabby genteel, with dark hair, wearing a brown hat and coat. She recalled hearing him whisper to Annie, "Will you?" and her reply, chilling in hindsight, "Yes." On September 30th, the Ripper struck again. But this time things were different. Elizabeth Stride was discovered in Dutfield's yard at 1 a.m. Her throat had been cut, a single clean slice across her neck. But unlike the others, there were no horrific mutilations. Some believe this means Elizabeth wasn't one of the Ripper's victims. Others argue he was interrupted before he could finish his gruesome work. Witnesses saw her in the company of a man earlier that night, but their descriptions varied wildly. Was he fair or dark-haired? Poorly dressed or well-dressed? Nobody could agree. Only 45 minutes later, in Mitre Square, the killer struck again, and this time with unimaginable brutality. Catherine Eddowes was found mutilated almost beyond recognition. Her throat was cut ear to ear. Her abdomen was torn open in a jagged gash, with her intestines pulled out and draped across her shoulder. Part of her uterus and her left kidney were missing, taken by the killer. And in a grotesque escalation, her face was carved apart. Her nose sliced off, deep triangular cuts etched into her cheeks, her eyelids slashed open. A witness, Joseph Lawenda, had passed near the square just before the murder. He described seeing a man with fair hair and a shabby appearance, speaking with a woman who may have been Catherine. But in the darkness and fog, his description was vague and useless to investigators. Later that night, a blood-stained piece of Eddowes' apron was found in Golston Street, along with a message scrawled in chalk. "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Was it a taunt from the killer or just a cruel coincidence? We'll never know. The police commissioner ordered the graffiti washed away before riots could erupt. The nightmare reached its peak on November 9th. Mary Jane Kelly, the youngest of the victims, was murdered inside her own small room at 13 Miller's Court. What police found there was so gruesome that even hardened investigators were shaken to their core. Her face had been hacked beyond recognition. Her throat was cut down to the spine. Her abdomen had been completely emptied of organs, with body parts placed around the bed, on tables, and even beneath her head. One breast was severed, her uterus and kidneys removed, her heart missing altogether. The killer had even lit a fire in the fireplace, burning clothing and other objects to illuminate the room while he carried out his butchery. The fire had raged so intensely it melted the solder of a nearby kettle. This was not the work of someone rushing. The Ripper had time, privacy, and a chilling dedication to his horrific ritual. Each murder grew more violent, more grotesque, more deliberate. From Nichols's initial slashes to Chapman's organs being removed, to Eddowes' facial mutilations, and finally to the complete devastation of Mary Jane Kelly, the pattern showed a killer evolving in confidence and savagery. It was clear, this was no random killer. This was a predator perfecting his dark craft, under the cover of London's fog and fear. The city was gripped with fear. Police flooded the streets. Detectives searched for any clue, but the Ripper seemed to always stay one step ahead. Then came the letters. The infamous "Dear Boss" letter, signed for the very first time with the chilling name, Jack the Ripper. Were these real words from the killer, or the work of pranksters feeding the hysteria? We may never know. Over the years, hundreds of suspects have been named. Was it Montague John Druitt, a barrister found dead in the Thames? Aaron Kosminski, a barber rumored to be mentally unstable? Or perhaps even a member of the royal family shielded by powerful forces? And then there are the conspiracy theories, that the murders were part of a Masonic cover-up, or even linked to an underground medical professional testing his skills in the most horrifying way imaginable. The most chilling part, Jack the Ripper was never caught. He seemed to vanish as suddenly as he appeared. His crimes became the first media-fueled manhunt in history, spawning countless books, films, and theories. And to this day the question still lingers. Who was Jack the Ripper? Jack the Ripper's shadow still haunts Whitechapel. Was he a madman, a doctor, or something far more sinister? One thing is certain. His identity remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of all time. If you found this case chilling and you want to dive deeper into the world's darkest unsolved mysteries, hit that like button, subscribe to the True Crime Report Cold Cases, and join me next time as we uncover another mystery that refuses to rest.